All right, hello everybody. Thanks for having me. I've got some Chick-fil-A nuggets, and I think I would listen to anybody talk for a few minutes if they gave me some Chick-fil-A nuggets. So hope you guys are enjoying those. And if you haven't got any, of course, go over there and get some. So I come all the way from Tulsa, and I was invited by AJ here. She reached out, so thank you, AJ, for bringing me in. Appreciate you putting in some hard work. So as I understand it, you guys are in marketing and business, right? Is everyone in that line for a degree, or you got a different degree? Same marketing business degrees? Yes. Okay, cool.
Management, we have a few other ones that minor in marketing.
Okay, very nice. So to be honest with me, I've been operating an agency for about 13 years. And so I've got an office all the way out in San Diego, one down in Texas, one in Edmond and Moore, another one out in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I was thinking about opening another one in Miami. So these are all different satellite locations. I've been doing this, like I said, 13 years, started in 2012. Graduated from Broken Arrow High School, right outside of Tulsa, if you're not familiar with that. Got a one-way ticket to New York City, broke up to everybody. I was like, I'm tired of this. So I'm going out and I'm going to work for a handful of different marketing agencies. Some of them I worked for free just to get some experience. Some of them I got paid minimum wage. Some of them I got paid by a gig. Worked out in the field, in the warehouse, and in the offices with some of these different marketing companies. Some of them are global. They worked with Coca-Cola, like Sabra Hummus, Illy Coffee, Famous Footwear. I helped open 3 Sephora stores in Manhattan during their launch of the new stores. So if you imagine like a Sephora store now, if you go into one of those malls, it's literally 10 times the amount of Sephora stuff. So like, it's just cool to being a part of some of these different brands on the different levels. So like when I say in the warehouse, the companies would hire this marketing company and they'd be like, hey, we need you to store all of our swag and all of our event stuff. And then we need you to logistically manage to get it from there to wherever the events that we're going to plan, right? And go throughout the year. And so those buses, they'll load up and the trucks, they'll load up and they'll go out to like OSU, OU, TU, or wherever the trucks are going. And they'll set up, have you ever seen like a big State Farm tent or something like that? A lot of times those are not managed by State Farm themselves. Those are managed by another marketing company. Those are, it's like experiential marketing, if you've heard of that term. Activations, events, things like that. So that kind of stuff is what I started out doing in 2012. And so that was a lot of fun for me. And kind of came back and then started to get into social media, some other events, micro events. Still worked for some of those companies remotely. And kind of just built up one new service after the other. And so like now my job is where it's like, there's a business that doesn't have somebody dedicated for marketing, or it's the business owner, or it's the admin that's like, I'm doing 9 jobs for the company right now and I don't even want to make posts. So then I take all that over. I'm like, all right, so I start with a 3-step process that I built over the years. And I'll show it to you here in a few minutes. So I've kind of gone on and started to ramble a little bit, but that's a picture of me in a suit at like 4 or 5 or something. So my grandpa was a big inspiration for me to be in business. He started a company in like the late 80s to help prevent door break-ins, and he ran some lumber yards and some stuff like that, traveled around. And so he kind of instilled a lot of this entrepreneurial things. My mother as well is a big inspiration for me so far as like on the financial and tax side, which is a huge part of business, as you guys should well know. Early entrepreneur, moved to New York City, as I told you, moved back to Tulsa for retail and ops, as I mentioned as well, and then launched student marketing and kind of, like I said, just built up some different services and stuff. So in 2022, I won a cool award, Entrepreneur of the Year. So applied to be that. I run a business podcast. And so these conversations that I have on Brews and Business, 3 years in, but almost 100 episodes in as well. So that'll be coming out soon. These conversations are so cool to have. I talk with people who just started a business yesterday to those who have sold $800 million companies 4 times. Like that spectrum is huge, right? And some of those in between, like I think there's a Hideaway Pizza here, right? So I've friends with the president. I think he's now the CFO. He stepped down from president, but I think he's the CFO. Don't quote me on it. But I had a conversation with him, and he's like, now my challenge now is how do I get 3 to 4 new locations a year, and each location is going to cost, let's say, $3 million. And I can't just go to a bank and ask for $20 million from a bank. They don't have that money. They can't lend that out. They don't have that kind of money in cash, and that's a big risk. So he's like, now we have to have these conversations about venture capitalists, and we have to find these group of dudes or gals or whoever that have just built and sold businesses, and that's all they do, and they have hundreds of millions of dollars or billions sitting on the side, and that's what they do. They invest in companies like Hideaway. So like having some of those conversations, you're like, wow, that really just blows my mind. It's not like, I need money, I go to a bank. It's like, no, you're beyond that. A bank can't help you. Bank of Oklahoma, Bank of America, those banks are just like, nope, we're not lending out 30 million to that. So that's cool. And then there's like some conversations that I've had as well that are like more professionals. So like they're specialized in insurance. We talk about business or like taxes, and there's some accountants and stuff on there. But it's really cool. So we either drink beer, coffee, whiskey, tea, or something that we can brew, and then just talk business and some of their stories and stuff. So you'll hear how they've made some of their successes, how they've made some of their downfalls, and how they've recovered. Or if they didn't recover, they have to shut down the business or quit that position or whatever it is, right? So pretty cool. I've got some cards with a QR code, so if you want to grab one and scan it. Anywhere on social media, you're going to find stuff about Brews and Business too. So really encourage you guys to go on there and listen to some of those stories. So they're pretty cool. Moving on. So a 3-step process that I've built. It's taken a little while to do it. Starting with looking good. A lot of businesses that I've met over time, what they'll do is they'll just go straight into advertising. They'll go straight into doing a billboard. They'll go straight into making some Facebook ads, not post, but actual ads. Or they'll put up some Google ads, and then they say, the billboards didn't work. The radio, the TV, whatever it is. What kind of advertising did not work? Like, no, the advertising will definitely work, but the issue is no one could find you and make sure that you were legit. Just Google your name, kind of figure out that you're a real company and that you're still in business. Have you posted in the last month? There's a lot of companies that haven't posted in 2 years. And then, quick story, there's an accounting client that I worked with. And the reason why they hired us is because they lost a 9-figure contract deal because they didn't think that they were still in business because they haven't posted in 2 years. He's like, no, we've been in business for 20 some years. We know what we're doing. And so he was like, we need to just be making some social media content, making some posts. So, and when they do find out, so they do find you and they do say, okay, you're a legit business, whatever. They want to feel like they can trust you. So you just need to look good overall. So that's also going down to the brand guidelines. So this is just like a one sheet to where at minimum, do we have our different logo variations and different sizes, and are they vectorized? Do you have your font family, your typefaces? Do you have your color palettes with hex and CMYK, because print is different than digital colors, right? So hopefully you guys know that by now. And so that way you can try to make this stuff look as cohesive as possible. So if you digitize it or print it, the colors, the shapes, all that kind of stuff. You're not going to, are you doing round edges, soft edges, or are you doing them hard? Are you doing slants, like all this kind of stuff? So brand guidelines, I can definitely elaborate, but making sure that we do that. So websites, photos, videos. So we want to look good. A lot of this stuff, this look good phase is like foundational components, brand building components. The next step is I want to make sure once we look good, I want to make sure people can find you, right, and find us. So that's all the SEO, the advertising, the social media posts and ads and stuff like that too. So there's some examples, but that was a cool deal. Did you guys hear about the Guinness World Record that Andolini's made for the most people? Okay, so I helped coordinate that and do the promotions for it. It's 3,000 some odd people that ate 2 slices of pizza and drank 1 bottle of water in like 5 minutes or 15 or whatever it was. So which like 3 times the world record. That was really cool. So the next phase is I want to make sure we can stay on top and rinse and repeat. So a lot of times people are like, hey, I don't want to try to go out and get more business. We're busy, we're capped, we can't handle anymore. It's like, okay, great. Let's throttle back the advertising and then turn up a little bit more of the branding side of things. Let's go back to the beginning maybe and let's rebuild or work on elaborating some of our foundational components, making sure we've got the right brand guidelines, or let's take some good photography. Let's talk about our people, our quality, our product, our process, our service. Some of those P's in marketing you guys should know by now. Strategy and analytics, stuff like that. It could be how do we retain our current customers? Like maybe we do gift baskets, or maybe Like there's some heating and air companies that we work with, and we send out maintenance reminder postcards, text messages, and emails to existing customers. That's trying to stay on top, because if they don't come out and service their unit and make sure that gets scheduled, their unit goes down and they call somebody else for emergency repair, not them, they just lost a customer. Or they call and they go, yeah, that's an emergency repair, you should have done the maintenance, but you didn't, and now it's 2 times the cost. And now that you got an upset customer, you got to try to remediate. It's just go back to the very beginning and let's just try to solve that initial deal to where it's, if we just did your maintenance, well, I couldn't do that until I sent a reminder, so maybe I can do my due diligence. So you go even further back. And I'd not just send out a postcard, but I sent out a postcard, I sent out an email, and a text message. So like, sometimes people work differently, right? So you try to accommodate them in different ways. So the look good, be found, stay on top thing, that's something that's taken me a little while to build, and I feel like that most people, when they see that, they go, oh, okay, well that makes sense. Like, yeah. So some of my favorite projects I'll share with you guys, and you can raise your hand. So if you see something, or at some point in time you're like, hey, I've got a question, this will be a conversation and less of a presentation. So if you got something to say, just let me know. Dale & Lee is one of those HVAC companies trying to work on making a lot of their stuff cohesive. They're an interesting client. They've been around since 1966. So next year I'm trying to work on like some 60th anniversary thing. And they like to be like your good old boy HVAC companies. Like, they're still locally owned. And this is actually a very interesting industry, especially here in the Midwest region. There's a couple venture capitalist firms that they will buy up these HVAC companies. And then they can control the market and what the market's willing to pay, because they can change the pricing at one company and decrease it from another. Or if they notice that one company has a better methodology or process, they can implement that a lot easier through the rest of them because they control it all. They can also put one out of business a lot easier that they don't have, by trying to take over the market share by advertising more, because they can just put more of those dollars into the market, right? They can put up more billboards, they can spend more on radio, more on TV, and they can pick one of their favorite companies to do that with. But with them, they still hold tried and true, locally owned, and it's second generation owners, but do some cool like videos and some ads and stuff with them. What I'd like to have done with them a couple years ago is to make some foundational videos. So kind of going back to like that look good part, where they're maybe like, hey, we don't want to advertise a whole lot because we're busy. So I was like, let's make some foundational videos that talk about, meet the team, talk about the history. We talked about like, here's how the maintenance plan works. Here's how I know what size unit I need, or something that's like, here's what our maintenance includes for the fall. Here's what our maintenance includes for the spring. So it really starts to get a little easier to be like, all right, cool. And it also makes the next step a lot easier when it's ready to advertise, because I have all these assets that are created. I'm like, I have that video. We did shoot that. I did take that photo. I did go ahead and pre-create those elements, so it made things a lot easier. But a lot of cool things with them. We did some radio advertising campaigns, a lot of different components. So, and then we did like some fall and spring maintenance postcards. But with their stuff, we try to keep it like not too, I don't want it to look corporate-y, right? So it's a little different. Israel Diamonds, on the other hand, like with their stuff, we got to make it look like it's got to be dang near perfect. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys are engaged or planning on being engaged or have ever done some ring shopping, but you know, the way that those rings look online when you're shopping, like, gotta look crisp. But we've made some stuff for them too. So there's a lot of fun. So we shoot with like a macro camera, so we can get up real close to those rings and show some of the details and stuff. But just another example of how like we've covered all the different kind of components over the last few years. Tulsa Irish Fest, this is another one, if you guys have heard of this. They took like a 4-year lapse, and then they brought me in 90 days in advance before this event happened. And so I was like, all right, you're 90 days out, how many tickets have you sold? And they're like, 4. Like, what's your expectation? 40,000. I'm like, oh God. How many sponsors do you have? 2. What did they spend? One spent 50. I'm like, okay, great. We're already in the hole though. So, but anyways, whatever. This event is really fun, really cool. They held it, it's really hard to promote this, for one. This event has never been put on at that scale with a festival the size of where they could have 40,000 people come. The last one they did was 4 years ago. It had 12,000 over a weekend, okay, over a weekend. 90 days out, we didn't have a whole lot. One of the things that I think you guys will deal with too at some point in time is you can't force the market to buy. The ticket pricing on this project was very difficult. They wanted to be family friendly, family oriented. Okay, to say mom, dad, 2 kids. If each ticket for an adult is $35 and the kids are 20, and I buy some food, 1 or 2 drinks, let's say 1 drink for each adult and say 4 entrees, I'm easily over $1.50. I'm not even including, maybe with parking, you know what I mean? Okay, so is that affordable for most families? Well, the feedback on this was no. And so it wasn't up until like 3 to 4 weeks up until the event where it's like, hey, we've done all this advertising. Like I've got great numbers here. Like we've gone from nowhere to everywhere. Like we're all over the place. We've got billboards, we have radio stuff. We've done some PR stuff with the news. Like we have some famous people talking about it, all this stuff. But it was difficult to promote something that like never existed. So we had to take like some stock stuff or try to get creative with reels and video content and like try to go out on site and be like, hey, like, so imagine like all this here. And then like try to get some footage from like the bands and some of the people that were performing over the weekends, try to like instill the vision of what would happen. It became a lot easier to promote it in 2025 because of course 2024 already happened. So like I was able to build up an archive of all this photo and video content that we could use for the following year. But last year in 24, that Friday, there was, it was like beautiful weather, 3 o'clock hit, and it just started to drop in temperature. By 6 o'clock, it was pouring and the whole place was flooded and we had to close down by 7, right? And so leading on to over the weekend, there was some better attendance, but it was still really difficult to try to portray what people should expect. And then also try to get people to buy the tickets when it's like, the families say no, like they're commenting and they're sending messages that like, hey, we don't want to buy this ticket pricing. So now you've got to go back to the people who are managing this stuff. And this is a great example. So it's not just festivals, it's everything else, right? HVAC companies and stuff too, where it's like, hey, they don't want to pay for the maintenance plan. I can show an ad to them all day long. That's not why they're calling you. They're calling you because their furnace is blowing cold air and it's 32 degrees outside. Now it's your it's your technician's job to sell them on a maintenance plan, right? So educational points like that. So we have to go back to and we have to say we need to adjust the ticket pricing. We got to bring it from 35 down to 15 or whatever. There was another event that recently happened too as well. In June, it was like, hey, we have an event coming up. I'm like, all right, what are the details? I didn't hear about the details until September, 30 days out from the event. And I'm like, what are your expectations? Like 1,000 people and $1 million. I'm like, me too. I'd love to have that. And no budget, no advertising budget. So we had to pull some strings to be like, hey, will you guys put this on the news for free or whatever? And some of them did. But it's really difficult. The ramp up time, especially on these events, and a lot of times in business in general, is so important to have. Time and frequency. How many times you hear something. So I've heard like the rule of 7s, which means like usually it takes 7 times on average to hear, smell, taste, see something, whatever. Drive by a billboard 7 times, you're like, what sounds good for lunch? Oh, McDonald's. Oh, because I saw McDonald's on a billboard. I heard them on a radio. My friend ate McDonald's here in the classroom. I smelt it when I was driving down the street. And eventually you're like, McDonald's sounds good for lunch. And sometimes you just don't know why. It's because it's bottom part of your brain over time. And so that frequency term, I feel like is one of those terms that a lot of people in my space, they just focus on how many people did we reach and how many impressions were there. Coming back full circle, time to market this event and the last one that we just did, and time to educate the market and to show them, hey, we're here, we're legit, you can trust us. I can't just show you an ad once and now you start buying. So like I need to show you over time that like we're real, again, we're trustworthy and stuff. So, but it was cool. So I don't know, like I can answer some questions. I can tell you about stories all day long. So what's up?
So with like, for the HVC company that you helped to work with, with those like venture capitalists that were like basically controlling the market, how do you target your marketing initiatives to like stay afloat with all of that going on at the same time?
It is difficult, to say the least. On top of that too, you know, I'm dealing with budgets restrictions. So a lot of times, like, I can only do whatever budget's available. You give me $500 a month, there's probably, with them, like, we just pick Google ads, right? And if we have another client in an HVAC space and their budget's higher, then it might be a little easier to advertise their stuff. But I think we try to find like the areas that really work for them, so far as the messaging, the staying local part is really important to the clientele. So like Air Comfort Solutions, and some of those guys, I think they're all the way out either here in Oklahoma City as well, kind of back and forth. Their branding and sometimes their messaging is very like corporatized. And so we try to pivot with Dale and Lee's, like I said earlier, is try to have this good old boy, Rick, is coming to show up and do your plumbing. Like, and so we're trying to transition to like making some more of that content. Like, we were out with a couple of the plumbers, and they are like your typical plumbers. It was great. And so we're making some reels with them, just being like, you know, it's really hot out here, and they got butt cracks and they're sweating and everything. And it's just great content. It's just raw. You're like, it's almost cringy. I'm like, why am I watching this? Like, yeah. But I don't know. So like, try to make some entertaining stuff and stuff that like would not be good with corporate. Yeah. Like, do the exact opposite. And sometimes like that's a good strategy too. And one of the best things I heard from Andolini's, from Mike Bausch, and we made a podcast together. It was at his place. It was a little loud, but it's still a good message. He goes, I'm a scientist, not a perfectionist. And so like, I will fail, it will not work, and eventually, bam, found it worked. And then when it works, man, it takes off. And like the pizza competition they did, right? Like, he's tried that kind of stuff plenty of other times before. They're not a new company. They've been around for 20-ish years. Andolini's group has. And I don't know if you know, he's got 7-8 other restaurants too. But yeah, so you try to find like the opposite of what some of the competition is doing, or try to figure out really what the clientele cares about the most and go for that. And sometimes like I find that Facebook groups where people are looking for like, you know, looking for a reliable plumbing company in Tulsa. Okay, well, a plumbing company would say plumber in Tulsa, right? As like a post or a keyword or a video ad or whatever. Well, the keyword here is reliable plumber. I was like, that sounds a little corny to be like, reliable plumber in Tulsa. Well, that's what people are looking for maybe, right?
So obviously you live in Tulsa, so you work with a lot of like Tulsa companies.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had any companies that have reached out to you that are like either abroad or I guess in another state?
Yeah. I helped a company down in Honduras. They have plantains and they make chips and they ship them across the world. There's another client in Germany that I have. Their parent company, the Federagoni Group, is a massive organization that produces majority of the paper products. The vinyls on your shirt, majority of the time that came from them. Like, you've got something on your shirt? Yeah, that was, if it was screen printed on there, or stuff on your purse, Victoria's Secret outfits, some of those materials have been produced by them. And so just trying to work with them on, we did some advertising over the last year, started about a year ago, to try to find a very niched market, like merchandisers, retailers, designers, and stuff like that, and then try to put like a message in front of them that's like, all right, here's where we can help supply you the ability to be creative with the right, different kinds of materials. 3M, like the 3M company, that's one of their customers. So like, and then they use some of their materials for police and fire and stuff like that too. So like, that was fun. Like I've got some clients in Oklahoma City, don't have any here in Stillwater. I've got some in San Diego that I work with. There's some chiropractors. I really love the home service, like the home trade, HVAC, plumbing, electrical. They don't know how to do the stuff I do. they've got good margins, and they're very loyal. So like when they find a vendor that they like to work with, they keep that vendor for as long as possible. But yeah.
How do you feel like your services differ from like other marketing companies?
A lot of them are niche, so that they just do one. They either do like that one industry or they just do like that one service. Like they'll just do social, they'll just do video or just do events or whatever. When most of the time, like we were talking about earlier, about how like it's nice to have somebody that understands, or a group of people who understand the different components of online, offline, who can take the idea and try to merge it into something with print, do radio, do a digital campaign, put something together on the website, make some blog post about it, or make a video ad or some social media reels or whatever it is. And so most of the time, like that's where we really hit the mark. I think more than others. There's some other like really good ones too. I want to meet High Five Media down in Oklahoma City. It might be a good group to work with and collaborate with on some projects. And there's some other companies to where it's like, hey, like you guys do better at, I don't know, you guys do better at this kind of strategy stuff, and then we do better on the execution side of it. So it's like, you do the strategy and we'll execute it. Or you'll do the SEO part and we'll do this. So like there may be some projects where we collaborate, or especially on the video production side. Like we definitely collaborate with a bunch of freelancers.